हरिः ॐ सुमुखश्च एकदन्तश्च कपिलो गजकर्णकः लम्बोदरश्च विकटो विघ्नराजो विनायकः धूमकेतुर्गणाध्यक्षः पालचन्द्रो गजाननः वक्रतुण्डः शूर्पकर्णो हेरम्बः स्कन्दपूर्वजः शुक्लाम्बरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये यस्य विरधवक्त्राद्याः पारिषद्याः परस्सतं विघ्नं निघ्नन्ति सततं विश्वक्सेनं तमाश्रये गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री ब्रह्मानन्दं परमसुखदं केवलं ज्ञानमूर्तिं द्वन्द्वातीतं गगनसदृशं तत्त्वमस्याधिलक्ष्यम् एकं नित्यं विमलमचलं सर्वाधि साक्षिभूतं भावातीतं त्रिगुणरहितं सद्गुरुं तं नमामि. సారేకు శ్రీహరి పదసారసముల ధ్యానించుచు నారాయణ నామములను పారాయణ మోనరించుచు నాదముని వేడలిన సుగుణాతి సయము వినరే. వ్యాసాయ విష్ణు రూపాయ వ్యాస రూపాయ విష్ణవే నమో వై బ్రహ్మ నిధయే వాసిష్ఠాయ నమో నమః. व्यासं वसिष्ठनप्तारं सस्ते पौत्रमकल्मषं पराशरात्मजं वन्दे सुखतातं तपोनिधिं यं प्रव्रजन्तम् अनुपेतम् अपेतकृत्यं द्वैपायनो विरहकातर आजुहाव पुत्रेति तन्मयतया तरवः अभिनेतुः तं सर्वभूतहृदयं मुनि मानतोऽस्मि. यस्वानुभावम् अखिल श्रुतिसारम् एकम् अध्यात्मदीपमति तितीर्षतां नमोन्धं तमोन्धं संसारिणां करुणयाः पुराणगुह्यं तं व्याससूनुम् उपयामि गुरुं मुनीनां. नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरयेत्. कृष्णं कमलपत्राक्षं पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तनं वासुदेवं जगद्योनिं नौमि नारायणं हरिम्. त्रिभुवनकमनं तमालवर्णं रविकर गौरवर अम्बरं दधाने वपुः अलककुलावृतानन अब्जं विजयसखे रतिः रतिरस्तु मे अनवद्या. श्रीकृष्ण कृष्णसखा कृष्ण ऋषभा ಅವನಿಧೃಕ್ ರಾಜನ್ಯ ವಂಶ ದಹನ ಅನಪವರ್ಗ ವೀರ್ಯ ಗೋವಿಂದ ಗೋದ್ವಿಜ ಸುರ ಆರ್ತಿಹರ ಅವತಾರ ಯೋಗೇಶ್ವರ ಅಖಿಲ ಗುರು ಭಗವನ್ ನಮಸ್ತೆ. ಯಸ್ಮಿನ್ ವಿರುದ್ಧ ಕತಯೋ ಯಾನಿ ಸಂಪತಂತಿ ವಿದ್ಯಾದಯೋ ವಿವಿಧ್ಯ ಸತ್ತಯ ಆನುಪೂರ್ವಯಾತ್ ತದ್ ಬ್ರಹ್ಮ विश्वभवम् एकम् अनन्तम् आद्यम् आनन्दमात्रम् अविकारम् अहम् प्रपद्ये. नमो भगवते तुभ्यम् पुरुषाय महात्मने हरये अद्भुतसिंहाय ब्रह्मणे परमात्मने. ओम नमो भगवते तस्मै एतच्चित् आत्मकम् पुरुषाय आदिबीजाय परेशाय अभिधीमहि. My loving and humble pranams to my master, to my guru, to my mother, father, to my everything. My humble and living pranams to each and every one of you. It's only with Bhagavan's grace that we are here. It is not an exaggeration, and it is the absolute truth that to be able to listen to and speak about and share the glories and the stories of Bhagavan, to be able to listen to Bhagavatam is truly a signal sign of Bhagavan's grace. Without Bhagavan's will and grace, this will not happen. This is an extraordinary thing, to be able to listen to Bhagavatam and to share Bhagavan's stories and glories. It is not ordinary. It is Bhagavan's grace that we are here to share his stories and glories. And make no mistake about that. This is not easily obtained. Even though it is very easy, Bhagavan's Nama is very easy, to be able to get this kind of opportunity, to have the inclination, to have the internal pull, to be called here and to be listened to, that is Bhagavan's signal presence. And that is the truth. Let us review the instruction. Not every instruction from Bhagavan is important, but what does he say after explaining all that is to be known, both in this world and in the Paraulagam also, to Arjuna, which Vyasamuni calls as Bhagavad Gita. After explaining everything, how does he summarize it? As a good teacher always does, always he gives a beautiful summary. And his summary is Manmana Bhava, Mat Bhakto, Mat Yaji, Mam Namaskuru. Those are the 4 steps. You repeat after me. By the time we are finished, I guarantee you that this slokam, this instruction, this mantram will be fully imprinted in your mind, and with Bhagavan's grace also in your heart. Very simple. Manmana Bhava. Always repeat it twice, as I learned from Mad Bhakto. Mat Yaji. Mam Namaskuru. Sounds simple, right? So now say it with me. Manmana Bhava, Mad Bhakto, Mat Yaji, Mam Namaskuru. Okay? You do these 4 things, Mameva Ishyati. You will come to me. Satyam te, I tell you the truth. Now Bhagavan, whatever he says is the truth. But he says, Satyam te, I promise you, I tell you the truth. Pratijane, I promise this to you. Satyam te, this is the truth. Te pratijane, I promise this to you. Bhagavan is promising. Okay? Priyosi me, my darling pet. Oh, Kanna, like the way mother calls a child. Kanna, come here, you are so dear to me. You are my darling pet. I am telling you, do these 4. So lovingly Bhagavan says. And we saw, and today we are going to continue with Bhagavan's grace. Those people, they are no different than you and me. Similar human birth, okay? Going through difficulties, going through achievements, going through rejections, lots of miseries in their life. But they followed this instruction of Bhagavan. Manmana Bhava. Then they became Bhagavatas. Only when you think of Bhagavan and keep him in your mind and then into your heart, then only you can become a Bhagavata. We can call ourselves whatever we want. What is the best degree that you can get? PhD? Post-PhD? What is the best degree you can get? Think. What is the highest degree you can obtain? It is a certificate, a degree called devotee. That is not given by anybody else. I cannot call myself devotee. We cannot call ourselves devotee. The only person who can give you that certificate degree is Bhagavan. He must call you, you are my devotee. Then you become a devotee. That's the highest achievement, the degree. And that is what Bhagavatas did. And Bhagavan says, also, Manmana Bhava, I tell you, Manasa Bhajare, Guru Charanam, Dushtara, Bhava Sahara Taranam, right? So, He says this Manmana Bhava sounds so simple. It is actually very simple. It is as simple as dropping a handkerchief. No more difficult than that. We are holding on to it. Just let go. Start thinking of it. It's so easy. But to make it, to put it into practice, he gives us some practical, very important further instructions. Tyaja durjana samsargam. Very important. Give up bad company. Bhaja sadhu samagamam. Seek and keep the company of the good. Now, who is good? Got to understand. Am I good? Are you good? You have to analyze yourself very carefully. What is the definition of who is a good person? Sir, I'm helping, I'm doing so much service and all this. Does it make you a good person? The person who is attached to God and who keeps and seeks the company of God, that is the hallmark of the good. That's the company we need. Bhagavan said, once one person asked him, Swami, and he was commenting on being a devotee, talking about devotion, bhakti, right? And to give me devotion. So what is bhakti? Let us look at that for a second, okay? And this I think you will like very much. Bhakti is Bhagavan Anurakti. Bhagavan Anurakti. Bhakti. You get that? Now, within that, how many things are there? Bhukti is there. Okay? Rakti, Yukti, Anurakti, Virakti, Mukti. All these are in that bhakti. What does it mean? In this world, Bhagavan is given as a body and a mind for a job, for a particular job. If nothing is wasted, we are not using it for the job he has given. If you use it properly, bhukti, yes, definitely enjoy. Enjoy. There's nothing, Bhagavan says, no, he never wants you to be morose and go on a big fast and all that. He wants you to enjoy life, but as a trustee, not as an owner. That's a mistake we make. Everything given to us for our enjoyment within limits, but as a trustee of Bhagavan. So everything belongs to Bhagavan and I enjoy it. That's the way attitude we must take. Bhakti, Rakti. Yes, we have desires. Desires come. That is also Bhagavan. Kama, we say that in Sahasranamam. That's also a form of Bhagavan. But we should enjoy it in relationship as a form of Bhagavan. So Bhukti, Rakti. Then Yukti. For to live in this world, Yukti, immediately we think it is something negative. No. It is tact and skills. You need skills. Worldly skills you need to live. That's all effulgence of Bhagavan. So Bhukti, Rakti, Yukti. Now Anurakti. All of us have attachment in this world. Who does not have attachment? That is what the whole Bhagavatam is talking about. Can I just give up everything and go? Right? How? Yes, we must, but how to do it? So this Anurakti, this attachment that we have, suppose I attach myself to Bhagavan. That is why that tool is given. That attachment, the tool of attachment is given to attach to Bhagavan. Anurakti. Then, Bhukti, that all the disturbance. Very important, one thing, it's very important in life also, whatever we do, we must be completely focused. Not get disturbed. If somebody comes, let them come. They will find their way to find a seat. That focus is very important in life. Just like when you play tennis, you keep the ball, you focus on the ball. Alright? You must be very focused all the time. Don't get disturbed by anything else. Because this is between you and your Bhagavan. Don't get disturbed. Okay? So, Bhukti, Rakti, Yukti, Anurakti. Right? We thought. Then Virakti. When you enjoy the worldly life that we are doing in the proper way, Bhukti as in companionship with Bhagavan, and Yukti as a form of the skills that people are some more skillful and whatever it is. Even when somebody cons you, even when somebody deceives you, That is Bhagavan. He says in Bhagavad Gita, even that is an effulgence of me. So if I train myself to look like that, and then I go into Anurakti, I'm attached to so many things. Okay? Don't negate it. If I'm attached to a BMW, so be it. But not to BMW. The attachment. What is it that's attracting me there? Oh, Bhagavan. If you keep the companion of Bhagavan like that, what will happen? Virakti will come. Virakti, that means the non-attachment and an indifference to all the material and worldly object, because you've now started training yourself to look at Bhagavan in his company. Whatever you see that is form of Bhagavan, if he's trained like that, automatically Virakti will come. Once Virakti comes, that leads you to Mukti, back home, to the lotus feet. This process, Bhagavan, Anurakti, this is Bhakti. So within Bhakti, all these are there. Right? So, Bhaja Sadhu Samagamam, the company of the good, seek that. Then Kuru Punya Ahoratram. Very important directives, okay? And each one there is a Bhagavatam, is a beautiful story. Now, for lack of time, we didn't cover those stories yesterday, right? Then Kuru Punya Ahoratram. First is Tyaja. Immediately, don't even hesitate for a second. Tyaja, Durjana Samsargam. Seriously. And it is no different from, suppose a snake falls on you, what will you do? Immediately throw it out, right? This will be like that. A Durjana Samsargam, that is bad thoughts, bad habits, bad company, immediately give it up. Don't even hesitate. Tyaja. Bhaja Sadhu Samagamam. Then seek the company of the good. Swami, getting satsangam is not easy. Because that is like a most precious treasure it is. It's more valuable than all this going to diamond and everything else you can think of. Very difficult to get, satsangam. But you will get it very easily if you sincerely yearn for it and seek it. Swami, that's all not interest. I want the company of the good. Bhagavan will give you. Sincerely. Simple. Bhaja sadhu samagam. That's not enough. You also must do Kuru Punya Horatram, because body and mind is given. You cannot send it to waste. You must put it in service. Punyam. Okay? What is, you serve God. Serve God does not mean going to a temple and serving Him. Serve the needy. Serve everybody around here is one form of God. Look at it that way. Whatever, even the slightest thing, do it. Kind words, compassionate words, compassionate thoughts, kind actions, consoling words. These are all service. Think like that. Right? Then, smara nitya anityatam. Think. Get into the habit of think and reflect. Is this temporary or is this permanent? Is this temporary or is this permanent? It's a very important exercise. These are the 4 steps given to get to Manmana Bhava. The moment you get Manmana Bhava, start thinking of Bhagavan more and more and more, automatically your Hridayam will start manifesting itself. You will become more loving, less selfish, and more happy and more peaceful. Rejections will not bother you, disappointments will bother you less. All those things will happen. Beautifully you can go. Just like a nice, gentle breeze, you can lead your life. That's simple, practical thing from Bhagavan's instruction. Now, so these are very important. So now let's move on. There are so many Bhagavatas, and we will start sharing the story of one very important Bhagavata. All Bhagavatas are important. One Bhagavata called Parikshit. And Parikshit was in Tamil we say, achu vecha mari irukku. Which means the stamp, you put the stamp, you look exactly like your father, you look exactly like your mother, achu vecha mari like stamp. Parikshit was like that. He looked the form of his father, Abhimanyu. This little fetus in the womb, one day he saw an arrow coming towards him. effulgent and emitting sparks. And he was wonderstruck. What is it that coming like this? The moment he saw that, the next instant he saw most charming and beautiful and effulgent young boy with a beautiful disc coming there and throwing the disc at that arrow. And the arrow was pulverized. And this baby was wonderstruck. What happened? What happened here? And he saw this, and before it could recognize, the form vanished. And then this baby started thinking, who was that boy? He's also in the same uterus. That means he must be my uterine brother. First he started thinking. And then, how come he's so charming? What is that charming face, that charming form? Now he had a discus in his hand. How come I don't have a discus? So he started thinking. And then it started thinking about that form, and that form was so much imprinted. So beautiful and charming it is. It was always thinking about it. Always. So much so, when the baby was delivered, there was a beautiful halo and the glow around that baby. And Subhadra immediately rushed to tell the good news to Yudhishthira, because Aswathama had killed everybody, including the sons of Draupadi. So there was no one to take over the responsibilities of the kingdom. When those kings wanted something, we must understand very carefully, because of Kali Yugam, our thinking is unfortunately warped. And that is a characteristic of the time that we live in. So we don't have to blame ourselves. Let it be that way, but I think of God. Whatever happens, I think of God. So what is the warping? So why son? Why not a daughter? Why do the kings always want? Why Dasaratha wanted a son even when he had a daughter? All these questions come. Let's understand that. The only reason those kings want sons is to carry on the responsibility, and a huge responsibility. It is not just a title and a position. It's a huge responsibility to take care of the welfare and the well-being of their citizens. Society is huge. The kingdom is huge. So many people are there. Everybody has to be taken care of, including the weakest. And to carry that is the reason they wanted a son. Okay? That's the job of that prince. Here there was nobody. Everybody was basically eliminated except Uttarai's son. So as soon as the news came, Yudhishthira was very happy. And all the Panchapandavas, the news was shared, and the news was immediately broadcast all over the kingdom, the cities. Every citizen, immediately the whole town became a festive occasion. Decorations and pandals and orchards and flowers. You can imagine. And people putting water and cleaning the street beautifully, because such a festive occasion it was. Finally, now a person has come to carry on the responsibilities of rulership on this great dynasty. Not a simple dynasty it is. It's a great dynasty it is. And so everybody was happy. So, under Yudhishthira, of course, good news comes. Our tradition is normally to share things like, food and give gifts to people and all that, all those things that he did. Next day was Jatakarma. And Jatakarma is the spiritual, not ritual, spiritual cleaning of the body along with mantra. Why mantras are very powerful. The sound vibrations are very powerful. Simple example. Why it's so important? Why the words that we speak is very important? Just a small thing so that you understand. Right now, you are all listening to me. We are connected. How are we connected? Not physically. Physically we are separate. The sound I am uttering is entering you. So I am entering you through the sound. Sound is a form of Bhagavan that connects us. So sweet words, soft words are very important. They have an effect. Not only on us as physical bodies, also on the vibrations in the atmosphere. Very important. So, through the mantras, the body was cleansed. Because the body, even as it is born with the Panchabodhanga, combination of that, it immediately becomes dirty. Right? So let's not go into that. Continue the story. So, then the third day came, and Yudhishthira called all the priests and the astrologers and the palmists and everybody together in the big hall. And then he told the chief priest and the time the baby was born, and then he put it and wrote down and made the calculations, and from then they discussed basically they're preparing a horoscope. They were discussing among themselves, how this boy's future is going to be and all these things, and they couldn't believe. They did the calculation, yes, they were nodding their head and agreed, and they were all wonderstruck and did more calculations, talked, and Yudhishthira was getting restless. What happened? So, Maharaja, this boy that's born, we have never seen thousands of horoscopes. We have never seen such an auspicious combinations of planetary positions. Never in our whole life. This person will be so full of virtues. So virtuous he will be. And Yudhishthira was very happy. Who will not be when you hear like that, right? He was very happy. And then Yudhishthira said, immediately became sad. Yes, that is right. You said that he will be virtuous and will have lots of virtues and good person and all that. But will he respect the elders? And immediately they, Maharaja, no problem. He will be full of vinayam. He will respect the elders, will not do anything without consulting elders. And not only that, he will do yagas and homams and so many, plus promote the Vedic recitals and sadhanas of rishis and all those things. He was very, very happy now. Yudhishthira was. And then they stopped. For the fear of praising this boy so much that it could be construed as exaggeration. For that fear, they stopped halfway. And Yudhishthira said, no, why did you stop? Tell me more. So after getting permission, they described. Then Yudhishthira was very happy. Then he had one more worry. Yes, you said he will be virtuous and he will respect elders and do all the spiritual things and worships and all that. But what about his enemies? Will there be war? Maharaja, no worry on that score. He will have no enemies. The moment he comes in front of his army, everybody will surrender to him. If not surrender out of love, no enemies he will have. So he'll be virtuous and he will do all good things and he'll have no enemies and everybody will love him. You will be happy. Then he became sad again. As a kind of friend thinking about this, and the kind of face fell short. And the priests were asking, Maharaja, what is it that's bothering you? What is it? What's the problem? Tell us. Yes, sir, that's all correct. This is fine. But how will he die? Swami, the kid is already only 3 days old. Why are you worried about when his death will come and how long he's going to live? Why? Just be happy and leave certain things in the realm of uncertainty. Very important. God says, love my uncertainty. It's a message from Bhagavan, from Avataram, I'm telling you. We should not be taken, we must love the uncertainty. I don't know how that's going to happen. Okay, honestly, people are asking me, how many people will come for this? I said, I don't know. That's not in my mind. That's Bhagavan's point. I'm not worried about it. So don't worry about it. Be happy with the uncertainty. So they said, no, be happy. No, I need to know. Okay, if you insist. Then they did some more calculation. This time they took a little bit longer time. because they verified with each other, and then the king was getting restless. Said, Swami, what happened? Maharaja, the king will incur the curse of a sage. Huh? Such a good person will incur the curse of a sage? Not only that, because of the curse, he will be bitten by a snake. And that's how he will end his life. That's it. King became deflated. Completely so happy he was. Next second he was so deflated, so sad, morose and sorrowful, because there are 3 types of deaths that you should not have. They are prescribed to be not very good deaths. Okay, one is drowning in a sea, falling from a tree, or bitten by a snake. My God, such a inauspicious end for him. Then they said, Maharaja, no, don't worry. This boy has got Vraja Rogam. Vraja, that's 2 yogas that he has got. And it's very powerful. So, when he dies, he actually reaches Paramapadam. He once merges with Bhagavan. And such a yogam he has. Oh, if that's what it is, then it's not a curse at all. Then Yudhishthira became very happy, and of course immediately started distributing all gifts and everything else. Now this boy, there's one thing that is very interestingly peculiar about him. See, boy was so attractive. Like we are all attracted to children, right? Who's not, right? And so whoever goes there to take him, and the child will look at him like this, without blinking, will not smile, will not do anything, will not shake his hand, nothing. Just look at whoever comes there, he'll be looking. And this was a strange behavior. Everybody noticed this. What is this? No child has done this before. So this went all around the city, the whole town, everybody started, what is he? He's doing pariksha. He's doing pariksha as if he's examining something. He's doing examining something. So that's the way people are talking. In the meantime, Yudhishthira called his guru, Kripacharya, and set up the date for naming ceremony. Namakarma, right? And so invitation sent out, the whole citizens and everybody came, huge hall, everybody has assembled there, and the Vedic priests and Brahmins and citizens and leaders and everybody according to their status in society, everybody is accommodated beautifully. There's a beautiful pandal there, and then with a curtain, and the ladies all came there, and Draupadi and Subhadra and everybody was there. And Sahadevan brought that small baby on a small basket. And right to the center of the hall, there was a golden plate. On top of that, there was a silk cloth. And he put the baby there. The moment he put the baby down there, he also, in fact, Yudhishthira sent Arjuna himself to Dwaraka to invite Krishna. And Arjuna convinced Krishna, and Krishna had also come. So Krishna was seated in a high chair, a throne, right in the big hall. So the moment the baby was put there, it started crawling. Hardly 10 days old, it started moving. The moment, immediately you become afraid, right? We all very so careful about babies. Immediately Sahadevan wanted to stop it. And Yudhishthira told him, no. Sahadeva, wait, let's see what he does, So the baby moved, Sahadeva was following it, making sure it doesn't get hurt anywhere, so he's following. And the baby made a direct beeline to where Krishna was seated. It went there, and he was seated, look at a picture of the scene, sitting on a high chair like this. It went there and held on to Krishna's feet and looked up at him. That's it. With a plea in its eyes, please lift me up. And Krishna looked at it, and for a second, what looked like eternity, Then he lifted the baby up and put it on his lap. The baby was like this, and it kept on looking at Krishna's face. Didn't do anything, no smile, didn't move anything, just staring at him and his face. And Krishna looked at it. Then he laughed aloud. He said, "Ha! I heard that this baby is doing this. I thought that was an exaggeration. People were spreading rumors." And then he put the baby down and he went. Then before doing that, he brought some toys and tried to distract the baby's attention with the toys, the knives and this and that all. Nothing. Kept on looking at him. Not disturbed. Then he put the baby down, went and hid behind a pillar. The baby made a beeline, again, exactly where he was hiding. So he played hide and seek. Wherever he went, the baby followed him. It had no other distraction. 100% focus. Okay, something for us to learn. Then Krishna finally laughed, lifted the baby and said, yes, what I heard I thought was exaggeration. Actually, now I see this boy, this baby, examining even me, he says. And so, yes, that's the correct name is Parikshit. That's the correct name. Very apt, very apt. Bhagavan approves that. Everybody claps. And Jai, and all the Vedic hymns and everything going on. And then they bring the baby back and put it on again on the gold plate. And the priest comes with a jewel made out of 9 gems. He dips it in honey and writes on the tongue of the baby its name. And then on the next to that there was another golden plate with rice grains. They write the name of the baby and then say it on its rice ear and all that. So everybody was given gift and very happy occasion that ended. And as the crowd was dispersing, Vyasa also had been invited. Forgot to mention that to you. Sage Vyasa has also come. So as the crowd was dissipating, Yudhishthira, Swami asked Vyasa a question. He said, Swami, what is this strange thing that happened here? This baby doing like this. What is the thing behind it? Then Vyasa told him, Raja, when this baby was in its mother's womb, this Aswathama's Brahmastram was there going to kill him. But Krishna protected him. He saw Krishna when he was in the womb. So since then he has been looking only for that face, that familiar face, nothing else. That is why he was looking for the face everywhere. Today when he saw that, immediately he went there and attached himself to it. That's what happened. That's the background to what happened. And Yudhishthira was very, very happy. So then within almost as soon after this naming ceremony was done, Yudhishthira, then everybody had assembled, right? So all the crowd and everybody had come. So you want to do your other business also, right? Administration. So Yudhishthira called everybody, and with Krishna there and Vyasa there, and he goes, and he's a king of kings. He goes there very humbly, does namaskarams to everyone, namassadase, namassatapataye. He does that, very politely and humbly, even though he was a ruler. He says, you all have come here. There is one thing that I want to share with you that is troubling me very much. What is it? This war that had just taken place, 4 million people had been killed. Okay, just for your information. See, my mind is not at peace with it. I've done so much cruelty, killed. I am the cause for so many people dying. So, what should I do? How can I? It's such an adharmic act I have done, such a cruel act I have done. So, what is tell me a solution to this. And then Krishna says, no, Maharaja, no. You have not done anything wrong. Because that was a battlefield. When people come there to kill you, you protected yourself and you kill them back. This is a Kshatriya dharma. You are Dharmaraja, your name is. That means you're supposed to know about dharma. And even you are getting doubt about this? Come on, don't be silly. There's nothing wrong. No adharmic act has been done. So, instead of enjoying all this birth of this baby and celebrating, you are unnecessarily being morose again. So he kind of chided him a little bit. Nothing wrong. But Yudhishthira is a stubborn guy. So he was not, even when Bhagavan says, of course, when Bhagavan says, how many of us listen, right? And so Yudhishthira also was not convinced. You see how Bhagavan has to convince, right? And so even he was not convinced. So then Vyasa gets up. He says, Maharaja, see, what does a surgeon do? When a tumor comes, he has to have a knife and he has to cut it. Yes, some good cells also get killed in the process. But as a surgeon, as a doctor, if he doesn't use a knife to cure it, then he's not doing his job. Same way, you're a king and the knife was, you had to do this battle in order to protect dharma. Yes, some good people also will get killed on that. This is what it is. But you don't seem to be convinced. Okay, then I'll tell you what. People similar, historically, we always go for president. As a president is something dharmic, Immediately, somebody else done, no more blame on me kind of a thing, right? So the president is that some other kings have, after this war, they have done prayashchitam. They have done Aswamedha Yagam, and that was the prior. Immediately everybody said, what a great idea, let us do Aswamedha Yagam and all this. So solution has come for him to do a Yagam as a penance. So you thought the matter will be closed there. Then Yudhishthira was like this again. And everybody said, what is this? Just gave him a solution, he's still not happy. He said, no, what you say is true, but that those kings, they all have done the penance and the Aswamedha Yagam for that is fine. Because the crime that they did, the sins that they committed is ordinary. Whereas me, I have done triple the amount of sins. Because why? Because I killed my elders, my relatives, my acharyas whom I should actually worship. And third, I also killed several other kings. Because when you kill a king, that the protection of the whole kingdom is taken away. So 3 types of sins I have committed. No, the Aswamedha Yagam, I must do 3 Aswamedha Yagam, he said. I said, oh my God. Then everybody said, fine. Because his pining was genuine, sincerely, forget whether right or wrong. He was genuinely feeling it and he was sharing it with people, the real sadness that touched everyone, the whole assembly. So they all agreed. Yes, okay, we'll do 3 Aswamedha Yagam. Then Yudhishthira was happy. And then he came to Krishna and said, Krishna, you heard everything? Now it's your job to get this Aswamedha Yagam done. So you must come here and you must officiate. You must be the chief, the presiding. You must come and preside on this Yagam. And Krishna told him, Yudhishthira, don't you think you are in a hurry? Look at your situation. The major battle has just been over. Everything is decimated. Nobody has any money left. And to do a Aswamedha Yagam, what is your source of income as a king? Only what the money that your citizens give you, that is your source of income. And you cannot compel and pressurize your citizens to give you money and conduct Aswamedha Yagam, then it is not correct. That is not punyam. It has to be done without hurting anybody. So the citizens don't have any money. Now what about your sub-rulers? And they also don't have any money. They have been decimated like you. And a king like you, who's the king of kings, you cannot just do an ordinary Aswamedha Yagam, just do it in a room and go away. You have to do it with tremendous pomp and the size that befits your status. So where are you going to go for the money? Have you ever thought about it? Where is the money going to come from? Where is the wealth? You just went and promised in front of the whole assembly that you're going to do this. I wish you had consulted with me before you did this. But okay, still doesn't matter. Now not everything is lost. So we don't have to be in a hurry. Let us think about it a bit more and decide accordingly. And then Yudhishthira said, Swami, you know very well that I don't do anything without offering it to you. Whatever I am, all the activities I do, I offer it to you only. So this one, when you are there, you are my treasure and you are my treasury, he says. So you will take care of it. What am I to worry about? You do whatever is best. You think, my word should be protected? That's up to you. Or you think yagam should not be done? That's also up to you. I leave it to you. And then Krishna says, no, get up. I'll take it. I just told this to you to demonstrate your bhakti, your devotion and faith in me to everybody. Then he said, you know what? Krishna always is fantastic. Avatar Purushans, when you deal with them, most complex and knotty problem, they solve it in such a simple, perfect manner. In a trice. Only after the solution comes, solution can be like this, you'll be thinking. So simple it will be. He said, don't worry. Once upon a time, this Maruth performed this yagam here. Tremendously did Aswamedha yagam. Invited so many Brahmins and everybody. And such a big king he was. And the gifts he gave were all gold. Not just ordinary, the kind of gold that we are thinking of. Gold bricks, gold statues, gold chairs. Everything was gold. He gave it away. For Brahmins, you're supposed to give cows. He gave them gold cows. Imagine. So much wealth he had that these Brahmins, they could not carry all of it. So when they were returning home, they just dropped it by the side of the road. They couldn't carry it physically. Not how much wealth they want, right? So they just dropped it and then they came. So they all those must be there under the ground there. You can take that and use it to do your job. Swami, how can I do that? Those were gifted to those Brahmins. How can I go and take it? That's not mine. No. See, even there in lineage, the people who came in their family, they don't know that that kind of a thing is there. There's no claim of ownership. Plus, according to the rule of the land, the property that is under the earth belongs to the king. So you can go and take it according to Dharma. So he was very happy. The whole city was very happy. They sent literally battalions of army to go and find where Krishna told them where it was. So they went there and dug the ground, found huge amount of gold which they had to transport in huge transportations, like today's 20, 40 footers and all that. So tremendous thing, number of them they brought, and the yaga was started. Before it started, and very important lesson for us, so I'll share those 2 points with you. The chief priest got up and first question he asked was, King, you have resolved upon doing 3 Aswamedha yagams. Now tell us, do you want to do these yagams in succession, like 1, 2 and 3, or do you want to do the 3 yagas simultaneously? Good question when you think about it. And what did Yudhishthira do when the question was asked to him? Same thing. Next time Anantapadmanabha, somebody comes and asks you, please remember this. He said, no, I will defer that. Whatever Krishna wants, I will go by that. And what does Krishna do? Very important, even more important lesson for us. Instead of me telling the Vadya that comes home, sir, do this, do that, keep quiet. He let him do his job. Krishna doesn't give an opinion. He says, what does the chief priest say? What does he think should be done? That is the management style there. Okay? Because he has got the responsibility. And the chief priest consults and says, we will do the 3 things simultaneously. Every mantram we will recite 3 times. And then Krishna nods his head. Once he gives his approval, Yudhishthira says, let's do it that way. That's how the chain of communication was. Something to think about. It's always attracted me, that particular part. And then the yagam was conducted, completed, beautifully done. People said, this is even better than Marut's yagam, because there the Indra came as the Yajna Devata. Here, Bhagavan Krishna himself is there to receive the offerings of the Yajna. And so everybody was happy, and then was given gifts and was going. People were all leaving. What happened beautifully at that time? Krishna, in his infinite grace, decided to stay a little bit longer. This was taking place in Indraprastha. Indraprastha is just south of today's New Delhi. Hastinapura is where today's Meerut is. Okay, so you get an idea. Kurukshetra, you know where it is, right, today. So you get an idea of those three places. So Indraprastha is where this was taking place. And he decided to stay a little bit longer. What a grace it is. Just imagine Bhagavan staying with you, how happy you will be. So Yudhishthira was very happy and spent some time. And after some time, Krishna left for Dwaraka. At that time, he took Arjuna with him. Arjuna, Krishna Sakha, Kundi says that, right? Friend, Arjuna, Krishna relationship with Bhagavan's grace, we will share a little bit of that. Okay, it will come. Bhagavatam. These are the Bhagavatas. We are talking as Bhagavatas, as Pancha Pandavas to start with. Okay? And Manmana Bhava, whatever it is, that is exactly what they did. Can you imagine anybody who's put through more difficulties than what the Pancha Pandavas experienced? But they held on to Krishna. Whatever happened, they didn't even drink a sip of water without offering it to Krishna. That's how they were. Whatever difficulty. That's why Krishna's love flowed on them so much. Instantly it came. That's the relationship, and we'll talk about that later. Okay. So they've gone. Now, after they went, the news came to Yudhishthira that Vidura has been sighted in the kingdom. He has been seen on the outskirts of the kingdom. And just move a little bit forward. So let us keep some space between men and women. So the news came that somebody looked like Vidura was there going on the perimeters, and immediately Yudhishthira sent people out, verify this, is it Vidura? They come, yes sir, the Vidura himself has come. That's it. Yudhishthira was so happy, ecstatic he was, because Vidura left and for a long time ago. It was such a great loss for them. Immediately he gave orders for the whole city to be decorated so beautifully, and everybody, all the elders and all that, they were taken aback because they were contemporaries of Vidura. So everybody wanted to see Vidura. So the whole city was cleaned and decorated just like that, very quickly. Streets were cleaned, and then these gallery seats were erected so that people can sit and then watch the procession. And Yudhishthira took his brothers, minus Arjuna of course, and wore the royal dress as a sign of welcome, as a regal welcome, got into the royal chariot, and bang, they went to meet Vidura. As they went, they saw Vidura was coming, walking very simple, barefoot, in slow but majestic steps. He was walking on the streets with a big beard, calm and peaceful. The whole thing, he was just, the whole atmosphere around him was peaceful. The whole thing was moving like that. So beautiful, so effulgent he was. And the moment they saw him, immediately Yudhishthira got down from the chariot. All the brothers went and worshipped at his feet. And as a mark of respect, they all started walking behind him, keeping a distance as a sign of respect. In the meantime, elders and children and many people have all assembled on this from the streets, from the houses, from the verandas, balconies, everywhere. And the old people were all walking, hobbling with their sticks to see Vidura, to have the darshan. So great it was. And then Yudhishthira prayed to Vidura, Swami, please get on the chariot. And Vidura was not interested in all this. No, you must, sir, because then only others can take a good look at you. You have to provide darshan. So they persuaded him and he sat on that royal chariot. And procession went. Everybody was very happy. And they reached the palace. And obviously when a relative, a long gone, long lost relative comes, whom you respect so much and love so much, he shows up, what will you do? Kushalam Visari Karde, we say always, catching up. That's what they did. And Kunti was, oh my God, she was so happy. And she said, I held Vidura's hand. Come, after all, we lost all hope. And she said, you helped us. You protected my sons from not one danger or two calamities, so many of them. But the most calamitous thing that happened to us, Vidura, is you leaving us and going away. I never thought I will see you again. So she was crying. And Vidura was saying, when the moment you talk about all the atrocity that were perpetuated, done on Panchapandavas, that's in people's mind. You cannot forget it, right? So Vidura makes a comment, yes, nothing moves without Bhagavan's will. Who knows, how things will happen. That he started expounding the greatest philosophy. How not even a blade of grass falls without Rama's will. He started talking, everything happens. He says, we are all puppets. We are all bound by the chain of the karma, the action, reaction, the rhythm that is operating the world. We can't escape. We think we are free. No, we are not free. We are puppets in that law. So he was explaining. And when all the Pandavas, everybody was listening very attentively. Very beautifully it was. Picture that scene that happened. Then Kunti said, where were you all these days? We missed you so much. Then he started explaining all that Kshetradanam that he did. And when he started explaining one place after another, Yudhishthira was wonderstruck. He's like he was transported to this place. Oh, I must be there. If you talk about Rishikesh, we talk about Kumbhakonam Sargavani temple, wherever you start talking about it, immediately he was transported there. With his eyes closed, he was. So they were in a different world. Then Bhima asked a question. On all your Kshetradanams, did you go to Dwaraka? He said. Then, moment he said, did you go to Dwaraka? The questions were pelted on him. Immediately Kunti said, oh, you went to Dwaraka? So how is Devaki there? How is Vasudeva there? Did you see all the people there? Have they become old? Like that, he started asking questions. And then, did you see Krishna? How is he? Now, Vidura did not want to answer that question. He did not like that conversation going in that direction, because when he went to Dwaraka, on the way he met Uddhava and he learned that Bhagavan has ended his avataram. He heard. He also heard that thing will come. He heard other things. So he didn't want to give the news about Krishna to Pandavas and Kunti, because he said, they are so happy in seeing me. So happy they are. Why would I want to spoil their happiness and bring the sad news? Plus he knew, sooner than later, Arjuna is going to come and is going to share the news with them. So why should I be the thing? So even though that news kept on coming, he kind of every time he pushed it back. And then he changed the topic into the glories of Krishna. And then After some time came for them to retire for the night. So Yudhishthira took him to a beautiful palace, palatial guest house. Vidura was not interested in this. He is an ascetic. After going through so much misery and difficulties in his life, people were wonderstruck when they saw the effulgence and his peaceful, Shanta Vadanam, Prashanta Vadanam, that you cannot fake it. It has to come. When you think of Kanchi Paramacharya or Ramana Maharishi, how peaceful they are. It has to come from your own personal experience. And everybody was wonderstruck at the rigorous tapas that he had undertaken and the results he had achieved. People were wonderstruck at that. So he was not touched by this, but he didn't want to displease Yudhishthira, so he went to the bedroom. There are luxurious beds and all this, not fitting a king. And Yudhishthira left him there, put some servants there to take care of his needs, retired for the night. Now, Vidura lay down on that bed. He didn't like it. His mind was racing. All the atrocities that the Kauravas did, all flashback, went through his mind. And he also was very much impressed by the loving care, not hospitality, but loving care that Yudhishthira was showing on Dhritarashtra. Like his own father, so lovingly is taking all these things that came to him. Then he thought about his brother Dhritarashtra, that he felt disgust. Not with Dhritarashtra as a person, no. Disgust for the life that Dhritarashtra was leading. He knew this was not correct. He also knew in his yogic vision that Pandavas will also be leaving very soon. Then who is going to take care of these blind elderly people? What is going to happen to them? Right? So he decided, no, I must help him. So he got up from the bed, very unobtrusively, without creating the slightest disturbance. This is beautiful. If we can just move like the wind, how will it be? Without disturbing anything. That's how rishis, yogis actually do that. When they step on the ground, even sand or nothing will be disturbed. It will be so beautiful, they will walk. And so he goes there, slips out into the palace where Dhritarashtra and Gandhari were living. They were being taken care of by Yudhishthira. Now, Dhritarashtra had heard that Vidura had come. So he was waiting. So he couldn't sleep. Vidura had come, so he's after all his brother, long time. So he's waiting to see him. And as soon as he heard the footsteps, oh Vidura, is that you? Is that you? Says, Vidura comes. Immediately, he kind of put his hands out to kind of touch him and all that. And starts complaining immediately. He says, all this has happened to me. I lost all my sons. Look at me. I cannot see. I'm depending on others. All like litany of complaints comes. Vidura listened to it politely, and he said, then he started giving him some philosophical teachings. Now, be honest with yourself. If somebody comes and gives you philosophical teaching, okay, will you take it? How many of us really accept a philosophical teaching or instruction, even though that is the truth? Right? Very few, like Arjuna maybe, right? But most of us, it doesn't impress. So Dhritarashtra was no exception. Even though he spoke to him some philosophical truth and philosophical remedies for his complaints that he did, he didn't impress. Then Vidura decided, this is not going to work. Okay, I've got to give him the shock treatment. That's the only way it's going to work. So he started blaming him. When somebody blames you, does it impress you or not? everybody immediately will connect to that and react. Right? So he started blaming him. He said, you talk so much and you cry now. Did you ever have you ever thought about the atrocities you did? He started like that. And all the strategies that you employed to kill the sons of your own brother because you're blinded by your attachment to your sons. He started one after another. You set fire to them. He said, and you put poison in their food. And in front of everybody, you tried to humiliate their wife. Like that. And that game of dice, I was there at that time. Don't you remember? I told you, don't do it. I gave you advice. Did you listen to me? One after another, ding, the bullet after bullet, he's through. And Dhritarashtra said, Vidura, what is this? We are seeing me after so many years. We have been separated for so many years. And I thought you'll come and give me some succor and comfort and all that. And now you're blaming me like this? And said, but Vidura decided he is not going to let down. He cannot go easy. He has to keep that thing on, the pressure on. He said, aren't you ashamed of yourself? He said, you're eating like a dog. And the food that's given by Yudhishthira, you're eating, living the life of a crow. He said, get up, move. Look for sooner or later we have to die. The time is a cobra that is waiting to bite any second. Time is a cobra waiting to bite. For all of us, not only for him. Please remember that. When I read that first time, I was shocked. Time is a cobra. Don't think it's going to be, I'm going to live for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. None of those things. We don't know. It can happen any moment. Time is a cobra waiting. If we can take that bite as Parikshit did, how fortunate we will be. Right? He gives them, time is a cobra waiting to strike you, waiting to bite any moment. Don't waste your time. Get up. Don't wallow in this luxury and rolling on this bed and eating like a dog. Get up. Go for the bliss, the life that is calling you at the end of this. Go for that. Go seek it. Yudhishthira said, why? Vidura, you think I'm leading the life of a dog? You think I'm leading the life of a crow? No, Yudhishthira is taking care of me. Such a loving, with so much love and care, he is taking care of me. What is wrong in that? You fool. He is doing this out of his goodness. Even though you did so much atrocity to him, he doesn't remember that. He loves you. That is his nature. But you have to look at yourself. He gave him advice, left and right, continuously. He gave him this body is nothing. It's going to go away in a trice. Go. Get up. Go. Then, coming from a sage like Vidura, just imagine if Kanchi Paramacharya comes here and tells us something. Would that not drive home? Huh? So lovingly he will speak. Simply he will speak in a very simple manner, like a child. But we will never forget it. The point will be driven home with clarity. That's what happened to Dhritarashtra. When Vidura spoke to him, the point was driven home with clarity and conviction. Conviction. Said, Vidura, what you say is true. Yes, you are my younger brother, true, but you can take whatever liberty you want with me because what you're saying is for my good. Yes, I agree. But I have this problem. I'm blind, as you know, right? I'm depending on somebody else to form all my body movements, everything. My wife has also blinded her in order to have the same suffering like me. How will I go to a forest? What can I do there? How can it happen? Then Vidura said, if you, person who decides and resolves to go and seek Bhagavan, to seek your own self, these are all not obstacles. Don't give excuses, he said. Don't give excuses. Then Dhritarashtra was lying there, was thinking, was silent for some time. He was ruminating this on his mind. Then he said, yes, I agree. I just have to do one more thing. I know, I have to get up, I have to inform Yudhishthira before I go. Otherwise, he will be upset, he'll be sad. And he may even make arrangements to take me to the forest and all that. And then Vidura said, don't be a fool. You're going there to give up, to detach yourself from the body and go beyond your body and mind into the Bhagavan who's residing in your Hridayam. You're worried about attachments born out of the body? Talking about Yudhishthira being your son? No. Get up. That final obstacle is gone. Dhritarashtra could not answer that. So he made it. And not only that, Yudhishthira said, how can I go there? I'm blind, I'm old, I'm weak. Then Vidura said, I will help you. I will take you there. Come. Immediately Dhritarashtra got up. The moment he got up, Gandhari also got up from there. Swami, I will go with you too. She put her hand on Dhritarashtra's shoulder. Dhritarashtra, as usual, started whining. Oh, I don't know, there's so many troubles there in the forest and all these animals and all this, so much difficulty. He said, no, Swami. My dharma is to be with you and to serve you, to protect you, to help you. Okay? Wherever you are, that is my Devalogam. These things in the forest and all, they don't faze me. If you can have, I can also come. She kept points. Dhritarashtra was not convinced. Then Vidura said, listen, this lady, all her life, okay, since the time she got married to you at a very young age, she knows no life other than with you. How can you expect her to lead a life without you? Let her come. Simple solution. Let's start. Immediately they started. Immediately. Just come with the clothes that you are wearing is a command from Vidura. They got up. And then Vidura led them with Gandhari, her hand on Yudhishthira, both of them blindfolded. One blind, the other blindfolded. Vidura led the way and without creating disturbance, the slightest noise, took them through the bylanes, through the gullies, through back roads, so that without drawing any attention from anybody. And very soon they went outside the limits of the city. And quickly he was pushing them, walking them very fast, because we had to go very fast. Even though they were old, they were walking very fast because somebody else saw them. And very soon, through the forest, they came across a river. And the river was flooded. At that time, at night, there was no boatman. So what to do? So the Vidura said, you stay here. They put them, rested there very briefly on that side of the shore. And Vidura searched for a boatman. And he got a boatman and they crossed the river and went into the forest. Next morning, Yudhishthira gets up and does his Agnihotram, the worshipping the fire, and then along with that, the daily dhanam that he has to give, which he does. And before undertaking any activity, this is how they lived those days. And even now, some people live there. And in fact, Swami says, if every person, every day, falls at the feet of his or her parents, takes their blessings, there will be no problem in the world. Simple solution. So every morning he used to go and fall at the feet of Dhritarashtra, take his blessings, and Gandhari, and then Kundi, before he started his activities. He was a king, after not an ordinary king, not a sub-ruler, he was a king of kings. That's what he did every day. Every day. And not only he, all the brothers used to do that. And so he went to the place where Dhritarashtra and Gandhari, their house, and didn't want to disturb them because he didn't see them out. So he was waiting outside in the ante-room there. Waited there for some time. No news, nothing came. So he was kind of curious. So asked a servant. He didn't enter. See, look at the vinayam there, the politeness and the protocol and the respect. He didn't enter. He sent a servant to tell that I've come, right? Servant goes there. Swami, there's nobody there in the room. Immediately he was shocked. So he goes there. Yes, nobody in the room. The bed has not been slept. The pillows are not disturbed. The furniture is not being moved. Like the signs are that nobody has used the bed, nobody stayed there at night time. That was a shock for him. Where could they have gone? Elderly man, blind. Where could they have gone? Immediately he went and searched everywhere in that palace, all rooms and everywhere. No. Then the thought occurred to him. Immediately he rushed to Vidura's palace where he had set Vidura. And there, same thing. Bed has not been slept in, Vidura was not there. And the servant says, Maharaja, Sage Vidura left the room last night, but he has not come back yet. That's it, he was shocked. And he fell down in utter shame because immediately the mind thinks of all the possibilities. And how many of our minds really think of good possibilities? That's why we have to train ourselves. We always think of negatives, what is known as yellow thinking. That seems to be. You must think positive. It will happen, why not? But yellow thinking, all dangers, where could they have gone? So many possibilities in his mind. He was rolling down on the floor. And a king, such a powerful king, actually so morose and crying. Because I did something. My uncle was dissatisfied with me. I did something to displease him. Now they've gone. What will they do? They would have gone and fallen somewhere, maybe fell in the Ganga and died. Who knows? All the things, possibilities coming in his mind. And servants all came rushing to him and looked at him. Maharaja, what happened? He was blabbering. He couldn't even speak coherently. The news went to Kundi. She came. Where did they go? Okay. And then Sanjaya comes there. And Sanjaya was a close confidant of Dhritarashtra. So, Sanjaya, do you know where my uncle went? Where did he go? Sanjaya says, Swami, yes, what you say is true. Yes, I was his confidant. I knew everything that he did. He used to tell me and sometimes consult with me also. But this time, he has deceived me. He has cheated me. Something I did that he didn't trust me. Even he didn't tell me. I don't know. This is the truth. I don't know where he is. He started crying. So Yudhishthira consoled him. No, don't worry. Then the brothers came. Bhima and Nakula and Sahadeva came. And they heard the news. They rushed. And then Yudhishthira told him, Bhima, this is what happened. Then they sent the army and the battalions, people, group of people, literally hundreds and hundreds of people to go and search for them. Hurry up, they could not have gone far wherever they went. They're old people. So they knew. So they conducted a complete search throughout the city, through the well, lakes, ponds, by-lanes, wherever you can think of. Okay? They looked everywhere, nook and corner, they couldn't find him. Then, could they have drowned in the Ganga? The question came. Okay, they went and looked. Immediately they had divers to go in under the water to look for the body. They all came back. Nothing. So Yudhishthira was extremely sad that this has happened without my uncle without even telling me he's gone. He couldn't take that. In the meantime, Vidura had taken Dhritarashtra and Gandhari into the forest, selected a place for them, and imagine being given the upadesam, being taught, being instructed by the master himself. Okay? Automatically you will carry it out. So he told them what to do, how to do the tapas. Namasmarana, Japa Sahita Dhyanam. Simplest to do. Japa Sahita Dhyanam. What is it? It is pick the name that is attractive to you. Rama, Krishna, whatever, doesn't matter. Okay? Hold on to it with the life of your heart. Don't change it. It seems in Krishna Avataram, Hanuman was there. And Krishna sent a word to Hanuman to come and see him. Hanuman said, no. Why should I come? Send back. The messenger was sent back. And Krishna then sent the messenger back. Tell him, went and said, no, Rama is calling you. Immediately he came. So, hang on to one name, and that name will appear the form, corresponding form for that name. Then start reciting that name, whatever the name is. And then, as you're reciting it, picture that form in your mind corresponding to that name. You miss reciting, the form will remind you. You miss the form in your mind, the name will remind you. Japa Sahita. Cool. The mind together. That dhyanam. So he taught them that. They sat there. They were so immersed in bliss. Control their mind. So beautifully. At that time, a huge fire came and basically consumed the whole forest in which they were sitting there. And they attained Bhagavan's lotus feet. In the meantime, Vidura, after making sure that they are okay, the greatest service a person can do is to take you to the lotus feet. That is the greatest service. And so after doing that, he had decided to leave his body at a given particular place. So he went to Prabhasa Kshetra, which is in Mandagamana mountains. It is Mount Kailas, that interior, deep depth of our Himalayan mountains. So he went there. And at the place selected by him, he gave up his life and merged, the body merged, being the composition of the five elements. It blended and merged in the five elements all around. That is how he ended his life. And then what happened in Indraprastha and Hastinapura subsequent to that, we will continue after a short break. Shri Sai Ram. Samasta lokaha sukhino bhavantu. So, we are about 5 minutes early. So take 15 minutes break. Is that enough?
Yeah.
15 minutes. We'll be back at 10:40. You all happy? Happy? Any questions or comments, observations?
Only one question.
Yes, please.
How is Vidura related to, for everybody? Vidura related to
Dhritarashtra.
Dhritarashtra?
Yeah, youngest brother. Dhritarashtra, Pandu and Vidura.
And when he told Dhritarashtra to do whatever, did he know that it's coming from Krishna, or was it his nature? Vidura.
See, when you are one with Bhagavan, okay, see, when you are tuning yourself to Bhagavan all the time, absolutely, the thought process, the guidance, the impulses, everything is divine. The problem is we come in and then we think we are doing it. Even when you are not in tune with Bhagavan, even then the impulses, everything we have is from Bhagavan only. Mat karma krit, mat paramo, mat bhaktaha is what Swami says in Bhagavad Gita. Very important lesson, okay, to answer that question. Mat karma krit, mat paramo, mat bhaktaha. Say it. Mat karma krit. Mat karma krit. Mat paramo. Mat bhaktaha. Mat karma krit. That means all the activities, including your impulses, thoughts, emotions, feelings, physical activities we do, speaking, whatever, thinking, speaking, doing. These are the three activities. Right? All of them are mine. Mat karma krit. I am the one who is doing it. They are mine. They are not yours. Don't think I am doing it. Okay? They are all mine. Therefore, mat paramo. Do them as my trustee to please me. Mat paramo. Mat bhaktaha. Do them with love towards me, with bhakti, devoted to me. So everything is Bhagavan. Okay?